Thank you for joining us. I'm Shannon Kramer, and I'm going to start this program. Thank you very much for being here. To quickly introduce myself, I'm a principal at Deloitte & Touche. I've been at Deloitte for over 20 years, focusing in media and entertainment, serving our media and entertainment clients, including the large studios, film producers and distributors, and cable and satellite broadcasters. And I have hosted panels before, not here at Digital Hollywood, so I'm excited to be here for the first time. And we have a very interesting panel and some great diverse panelists, so I think it'll be a very interesting conversation. So to make sure you're all in the right room, video anytime, anywhere is the topic. So if that wasn't what you wanted to hear, we'll sneak out, we won't say anything. But as we introduce that topic, obviously that's something that is familiar to all of us. For years we've seen that the TV industry has been about video delivery, and then we started introducing internet TV and mobile to the package, and entertainment today comes as consumers expect rapid content, and they want it on demand, and they want it on the go. And so one of the things at Deloitte that we do is a study around the digital democracy, and this is my favorite study that we do because it really looks at consumption of the consumers and how they're looking at content from the different generations and how that's changed. And you'll see that there have been a lot of changes that I don't think will be a surprise to you. Consumers want a variety of programming. It's no longer that 22-minute program that is produced. Now it's everything from a 15-second video to a 15-minute program to bundled TV series that come out all at once in terms of binge watching. So things continue to change, and I think the term cord cutters is one that we've all heard about. As I look at across the room, how many of you are cord cutters? There's a couple. Now what we're really talking about now is cord nevers. And based on the age of the individuals in here, we might not see too many hands, but are there any cord nevers? There are a few. And I would say that this is something that we're seeing more and more. And as you think about millennials and you think about them leaving the nice cush environment of their subsidized parental homes, one of the things that they don't want to do is spend their dollars on what they view as channels that they're not watching. And so things we've continued to change. And I will also tell you about, even at the younger age, things continue to change. I have both a 13-year-old and a 5-year-old in my household. And when my 13-year-old was a child, I remember when we let her watch her 30 minutes of TV, she would ask, can I watch the Disney Channel? Or can I watch Nickelodeon? But now, when I ask my 5-year-old what he wants to watch, he has no concept of channel, right? He wants to watch the show that he wants to watch. He wants to watch it now. And if I try to explain to him that that's not on demand or it's not available, he just doesn't understand that concept. I did quite the dirty look. So I think that you'll see that content continues to change based on that. And in response, the industry has developed quite a bit of media and quite a bit of content and quite a bit of tools that we as consumers are rapidly embracing. And so what does that all mean to all of us? It means a dynamic and interesting entertainment environment. And it also lends itself to a very interesting discussion today, which is why I'm going to now turn to our panelists and let them give you a little bit of background about their current experiences as well as their prior experiences. I'll start with Scott Barton, who's the Senior Vice President of Branded Digital Content and Products for Starz. Scott, you want to give a little background?
Sure, yeah, no problem. So quick background on Starz. Starz is a premium pay TV network. We have over 24 million Starz subscribers, over 30 million Starz Encore subscribers, 17 linear channels, on-demand offerings across all the MVPDs. Last year, and I think what this conversation is primarily going to be about, we expanded the Starz offering into the OTT space with distributors like Amazon Channels, Sling TV with folks like Mitch, DirecTV Now, and also, and again, I think most importantly for this conversation, with a direct-to-consumer offering through the Starz app and Starz.com. The Starz app is available across really the usual suspects of devices, iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Xbox One, Amazon Fire TV, and actually yesterday rolled out on Samsung TV.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Robert Rodriguez is the CEO of NatCom, which is one of the leading fact-based short-form content producers.
Thank you, Shannon. Good afternoon. We're a former NBC-owned company, and our business is 100% in the short form, so we kind of loosely define that as a minute to 3 minutes of programming. When we first bought the company from NBC, we were producing approximately 20 originals a month. We're now, this month, the month of June, we'll be up to 1,300 in multiple languages, and we basically cover the gambit. So we do everything from breaking news to health, wellness, entertainment, sports, and we deliver that through our own proprietary distribution and third-party distribution. But one of the things that we're focused on more and more are what we call intellectual property. So last month we signed an agreement with Warner Music to not only ingest their entire library onto our video player, but also to produce content from that library and redistribute it around the world. So our business is really predicated on short form and also global distribution, and we're building more and more of the global side of it as we see more people move to mobility, certainly more people moving to short form content. We like the space, especially in the emerging market side.
Okay, thank you very much. The next is Mitch Weinrob. Mitch is the Director of Advanced Video Products at DISH.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mitch Weinrob. I work for kind of the DISH family of companies, which means it's DISH Network. Sling is one of our brands, Sling TV, as well as the new brand that I'm working on called Air TV. And Air TV's goal is to basically make over-the-top television, streaming television, work like television, not like an app. Make it usable, make it work in the living room for the consumer. The other piece of my business is that I run the TV Everywhere products for DISH. We call it DISH Anywhere. Our latest announcement on that is DISH Anywhere now runs on Fire TV and Fire TV sticks, which means you can take that and essentially plug it into a TV that you don't have a DISH box on and watch all of the content off of your DISH Hopper, including your live channels and your DVR. So kind of two different versions of TV Everywhere, Anywhere, Anytime coming out of the DISH family.
Okay. My children will be happy about that. Thank you. The next we have Clint Schoff from the LA Times.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Clint Schoff. I'm a Vice President of Strategy and Business Development for the LA Times. And so we're like the video laggard at the table. Years ago, Tribune split into the TV side and the newspaper side. The newspaper side has been struggling to catch up on video for years. So at the parent company level, the company formerly known as Tribune Publishing, now known as Trunk, is doing a lot of interesting things on machine learning, video creation, all the way to premium content with partners. So I'm the LA Times liaison to that group that figures out how we're going to be anytime, anywhere, and also how we're going to ramp up the content itself. So those experiments range from working with all the full screens of the world, hopefully with folks like the guys at this table, to our own .com, which has a substantial audience as well. We launched, part of our strategy is to launch a joint venture with Herzog & Company. They're the folks who did the 60s, the 70s, the 80s for CNN, to do kind of more premium entertainment that would live on an OTT network. So glad to be here.
Thank you. And then next, Rick Capstra, Director of Media and Entertainment for Verizon Digital Media Services.
All right, thank you, Shannon. So just a quick background, Verizon Digital Media Services are obviously part of Verizon, but we run a global content delivery platform. So we deliver primarily video, but also any kind of content across the TV Anywhere and OTT space for broadcasters, studios, and of course for all the Verizon and Verizon companies, AOL, and soon to be Yahoo.
Thank you. And last but not least is Neil Dieter with Cisco.
Hi, I'm Neil Dieter. I'm here with Cisco, and people, a lot of times at video events, I work solely in video for Cisco, and Cisco moves more video around the world than anyone, and people think, oh, Cisco, I know routers and switches, but it's everything from broadcast satellites to the apps on the phone and all the encoding and packaging, everything that goes in between. So prior to that, I was in content production, writing, and producing for a very long time, and launched an on-demand network into over 40 million homes. So pretty deep experience within video across the wide gamut, and I'm excited to be a part of this with everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's go ahead and get started, and maybe what we can do is we can start talking about TV Anywhere and the user experience. I know that we have all talked for a little while about technologies and how there are a lot of technologies available now for use, and I think it's moved on to experience and usability. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that. And Mitch, maybe do you want to talk about Dish? You started to mention some of the programs that you have.
Sure. I think that the way I approached the start to this discussion in this panel was that basically we know that streaming TV or over-the-top TV, whatever term you want to use, we know that works technically. It's taken a few years, and there were some bumps in the road, and we had to figure out how to be able to change channels and how to be able to get rid of most of the buffering, if not all of it, and really make the video work. But what we're trying to do now is make it work for the consumer, make it a product the consumer can use, that they enjoy using, whether they use it as a replacement for a traditional video MVPD, multi-channel video provider, or whether they use it as a supplement, that it really works for them. And that's what I was alluding to with Air TV. What we tried to do with that is we came out with a new streaming box. It's a set-top box streaming box. But basically what it does is it combines your broadcast channels you get for free, your OTT channels, a multi-remote that controls your TV and your sound bar and everything, and makes streaming TV work like TV. The goal that we gave our engineers, and I think that kind of goes to where we're getting in the industry, is I wanted to be able to go home, pick up one remote, touch 3 buttons, and watch the game. And if I could do that, then OTT was working like television, like we all expect television to work, and that's really what we've tried to accomplish.
Okay, wonderful. And in terms of when you look at, Scott, at stars and premium channels, how do you consider delivering a similar experience regardless what technology?
So echoing a little bit on what Mitch said, and pointing out, I think, what we've done recently with the Stars app. So completely agree that being there is not enough, or you have to build a premium for us experience, but a seamless experience. And so when we rebranded our Stars app, we consolidated our previous TV Everywhere apps into a single destination. So, and that's the same destination regardless of how you may or may not subscribe to Stars. And so I think this differentiates us from our competition, where we have, so for example, you hear about a show like American Gods. You can go to the Stars app, or you can go to stars.com. If you're an existing Stars subscriber, you can log in with, say, your DirecTV credentials and consume the show. If you're not, you can subscribe right there. And I think we have a very competitive price point at $8.99. And so the point there is we're trying to do everything we do from a consumer-first perspective, where our competition or folks who are earlier in the space have created multiple destinations, and they expect the consumer to make the decision as to where to go to consume, whether you're TV Everywhere, you would go to, in the case of HBO, you would go to HBO Go. If you're a over-the-top subscriber for HBO, you go to HBO Now. In the case of Stars, we try to consolidate all that into one simple experience.
Robert, one of the things that we, in your introduction, maybe didn't talk about as much is your international breadth. And so maybe you can talk about what you're seeing internationally around.
Yeah, again, we're strictly on the short form side of it, but wherever we go and talk about anything from Africa to India or China in particular, where we were granted by the Chinese government the rights to provide content to the Chinese population, there is an insatiable demand and need for content, and most of it is being driven by mobility. We're seeing more and more trends towards, of course, the shorter formats. And I think Facebook, I said this at one of the panels I spoke at earlier, Facebook published a document that said their sweet spot is 43 seconds. When we bought the company, it was 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So we're seeing more compression for time, and certainly a lot of demand around the world. And you can pretty much throw a dart on the map, and you will see that if there's a mobility movement, if the population has embraced mobile appliances, there is an incredible appetite for content, and more specifically for us, it's the short formats that are really driving at least our business, and we see more of it, and that's why we've accelerated production. That's why we've accelerated technology that allows us to to provide our video technology onto any platform and tie it to ad networks, et cetera. And around the world, all we're witnessing is just more of that type of explosive growth.
Thank you very much. In terms of, as consumers are continually increasing demanding content anytime, how are content creators and distributors providing a seamless cross-platform experience beyond what we've talked about already?
Well, I think I can address that a little bit. So we're delivering content across all platforms. I think today, I don't think all of us as an industry are really doing a very good job of differentiating across platforms, especially TVE, OTT experience. If I'm watching Netflix or other, it's virtually the same thing on an Apple TV or a Roku or an iPhone. And I think there's a big opportunity to look at where customers or consumers are engaging with content and what's the most appropriate format in that case. So when we look at a number of different things. So for a customer coming to Yahoo homepage is generally looking to check their email, see some news. Short form content is very appropriate for them there. If you're trying to stick an episode of The Walking Dead into that mix, it's not going to work because that's not what a consumer's in the mindset of doing. Along the same lines, I think a couple things here were mentioned that are of course vital, and we've been trying for quite a long time to make it work like TV, like Mitch said. I think we're pretty close to there in terms of both video content and just the push the button and turn it on. But I think it's worth thinking about, do we want to make it work like TV anymore? The quality aspect, of course, yes, but the ability to deliver individual, unique streams of content to every user, do we want that to look like TV? Or is there an entirely different model of content delivery that's based on an individual, unique user and what they're looking for at any given point in time, or specifically defined content preferences, et cetera. So I think that making it work like TV from a quality standpoint, absolutely, but make it work like TV as a user experience, do we really want that? I mean, I think I guess time will tell how successful it is, but if you look at Hulu's new live launch of live linear content within their app, there's no EPG program guide to be found anywhere. You can't just really turn on YouTube Live and watch ESPN. That's not how it's set up, right? You're looking for, they know their audience is in VOD mindset, and they're looking for titles and looking for specific content. So what do you care, whether it's live or whether it's VOD? What you really want is the latest episode. If it's on right now, fantastic. If it was on last night, great, I'll watch it there. So I think that the question of how are we delivering content across platform is less one of technology, which is, I hate to say anything is solved from a technology standpoint, but like my fellow panelists here said, we can do it, and more about how we should be delivering that content for the best user experience.
But I think the challenge is that I'm not one user. I'm a very different user depending on when I'm watching television. Absolutely. And what my intent is. And if I'm watching it on my phone, I want something very different than when I sit down on Saturday afternoon on the couch and I want to watch something, or I sit down on Friday night with my wife on the couch and want to watch something different. So trying to figure out, I think it's valuable to make an effort to try to figure out how to get a better content delivery to that person. But I don't know that anybody's solved that yet. To know that I want to watch a movie with my wife on Friday night, and I'm the same user on Saturday, and I want to watch the game, and then when I pick it up on my tablet, I want to watch something completely different because I have 15 minutes before my doctor's appointment.
Yeah,
but making that work.
Agreed, but I think you said something like, do we want to have it be like regular TV? And I think I would respond to that with, it's not up to us, right?
What does the user is?
What defines that will be the consumer,
sure.
Right? And so we're making shifts to do that. I think there's big opportunity here to if you think about the traditional linear business, it's a playlist essentially, and you schedule it, and it's a one size fits all. In the case of on-demand SVOD offerings, we have the opportunity now to connect viewers to different types of shows, and so use an example for us. We have a show right now that's targeting what we think is an underserved demographic with The White Princess, which is very popular with the female demographic. I can connect them to the White Queen. I can offer them different types of content, try to bridge them to the return of Outlander. If we can be smart about consumption and give people what they want, and we all say this, right? What they want when they want it, right? Like, sorry. But there's some truth to that, right? And I think there's opportunity for folks like us on this panel to be able to accomplish that.
Absolutely.
Do people want to be told, or do people want to find what they want?
It depends on the content, and
Right.
it depends on the person. And I think it always easier said than done, right?
And
Like,
I think Hulu will pay the price for not having a guide.
I think
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
I think that's possible, but I think it's an interesting experiment, and we'll see.
I think
Yeah.
I think content discovery is the challenge,
Yeah.
and
And having all the content that people want, content rights is going to be an issue for a lot of those experiences as well.
Sure. As much as possible, though, if you can get, so in the case of the Stars app, we combined our entire library in one destination. And so I can connect people from a Stars original to, we have over 1,200 movie titles on there. So I can connect them to a theatrical. I can connect them to a deep theatrical. For somebody like me, that would be, Step Brothers to Dodgeball to Glengarry Glen Ross to Reservoir Dogs. It's a funny recommendation engine.
But to
But
that
it's
point,
important to track that.
If Dish can tell me what my wife wants to watch on Saturday night, there's
It
huge
makes
value
us
in
all
that.
happy,
Huge
doesn't
value.
it?
I'll change
Now,
tomorrow.
But there-
it
but
works
there's
for
a-
everyone when you can do that.
There's a balance, though, right? You're right. You don't want to be told, but I want to have the opportunity, right?
Right,
It's-
I want to
there's something
curate it,
different, like
but not
what-
told.
That's right.
Yeah, I think the last panel I was watching, someone brought up the example of Spotify and the Discover Weekly kind of portion of Spotify and the ability to find like artists and suggestions that way. I think they do a good job of not telling you what you should be listening to, but offering choices. And that's really what I think, let's be honest, we've been doing it for years now in advertising, right? And a lot of that is very intrusive and annoying. But if we can do it a little better from a content perspective, the technology's there. He used a little bit of platitude, so I'll say it's all about the data.
Yeah.
The data and the metadata is all there to be able to deliver an extremely curated, kind of unique stream of content. And I think it'll remain to be seen. I think the one, to your point of the Hulu EPG gap, I think the one thing they are missing in what they've done is the ability to just turn it on and watch something.
Sure.
Because that's the mode I'm in. Whether you need an EPG or just kind of a curated is one thing or the other.
And how do I find, hey, I usually have the local news on, right? And I just want to get to ABC. And it's that experience and that UX and the design of that interface, that's like kind of the Wild West right now. And that's where the real opportunity is. Because your point, like getting the video there is not hard. Having the video that people want and the experience that they want, and it may not look much different on a phone than it does on a set-top box right now, eventually.
Yeah.
It just, you'll find that in data and what people want to use.
And giving them all the choices that they want, whether those choices are provided by Stars, whether those choices are provided by a basic cable channel or a live local channel, getting that all together in one. I think one of the things that for a while we've lost with streaming video is that it broke up into all these
right, I have to
different
go to
little
different
pieces.
apps all
And I
the
got to run
time.
a different app on this and change the input to the TV to get that. And TV should be easy. TV should be fun. I mean, for the most part, that's why we watch TV, is to relax and for enjoyment. And if it's too hard, that's what's going to take people away from it.
I think a long time before the joy of flipping channels goes away, right? And that's lost in OTT right now.
Yeah.
So I think you bring up a good point around, and when we talk about the new consumer coming up, right, who right now is downloading Stars, is downloading HBO Go, is downloading all of these different programs. Do you see in the future that those will then be aggregated again together in packages when they're not wanting to pay, for channels that they're not using?
Well, I think you've definitely got the problem of the cost increases have gone up and up and up, and whether that's local channels or sports channels or any other kind of programming, and the packages have just gotten bigger, and now the basic cable is $70 a month. That's getting a bit ridiculous, and we do have to solve that problem. On the other hand, people want one source. They want to turn on one thing and be able to find their stuff. I don't want to pay for everybody else's stuff, but I do want my stuff all in one place. That I go back in history to that customers always gravitate towards one aggregated source. It makes their life easier. It happened way back in the day when people went from C-band satellite dishes to DirecTV and Primestar. They paid more for the same channels because they were all in one place and they didn't have to hunt for them. Customers will want that, but we do have to solve the problem of these ever-inflating packages and paying for stuff that customer doesn't want. And I think you've seen a lot recently of people doing skinny bundles, not quite to total a la carte, but a la carte-ish kinds of programming, but still making it available in one user interface, and that's what I get back to. It's one UI. The packages can be different, but it needs to be in one interface.
I think one other thing that we should add to the mix is two things. One is the whole advertising experience. So the industry, by and large, hasn't really changed their profile, so they're still trying to ram commercial time in an outdated model. And the other one is formatting changes. So everything we produce in two formats, 16 by 9 for desktop, 1 by 1 for mobile. But what is also happening is the likes of the younger millennials watching a 4-hour sports program on their Verizon phone is literally impossible because they have changed the game. They don't want to sit through 4 hours of programming when they really want is a half hour or an hour of programming. We're seeing that everywhere we turn. The idea of being able to compress time, give me the information that I want, give me the highlights, give me all the data that I want related to that. Don't let me sit through 4 hours of programming on a small phone that, by the way, the formatting doesn't even work because you're leaving a lot of things in between for imagination.
I think it depends on the content. Certainly in our case, our experience, I mean, no question, duration on a phone is much different than duration on a Roku device. What we're finding is, and again, our goal is to get people to the content they want, and let them consume it the way they want. And so we have people who watch a lot of content on mobile phones. We also have people who start watching and pick up later on a Roku or pick up later on an Xbox. And so I think it just depends on the screen that you have in front of you at the time. And in the case of Starz, it's a different content experience than perhaps news or sports.
I think to me it's really intriguing if you're in your position, Starz, or any content owner, because you have all of this opportunity and so many different platform options to engage with your fans or users, right? So you've got, you can sit down on a Roku or an Apple TV or something and watch Flesh and Bone, but then you've also got the dancers all on Instagram, and I can interact with them that way. And it was very interesting. I was in a meeting earlier this week talking about the NFL and individual teams, and this gentleman did a study about individual engagement comparing like NFL teams to Taylor Swift and Beyonce across platforms. And Taylor Swift and Beyonce are way up here across Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everywhere. And NFL teams are way down here and only on TV, essentially. And the opportunity as a content owner, whether your content is true long-form broadcast content or sports, is to figure out how you're going to interact with your fans and users across these different platforms in ways that are meaningful to them at the given mental state and time of day. Like you were saying, Mitch, about you want something different on your iPhone at 9 o'clock in the morning when you're waiting for a meeting versus sitting back at home with a beer and your 55-inch TV, right? So the ability to figure out via big data what any given user wants at any given time is really, I think, the biggest opportunity and challenge for all of us to solve, either from a technology standpoint or from a content standpoint.
And your content better be really, really good in that first 30 seconds, and your brand better be really, really strong so that people think, hey, I want to go find it.
Yeah, one point I didn't want to lose is that the gentleman said that advertising is kind of dictating some of this. I think it's an interesting point. Like, part of the reason I would posit that I didn't see the study reference, but Beyonce and Taylor Swift aren't as dependent on brand sponsorship for their social messages for revenue, whereas the NFL and a lot of content creators that are media or operating as publishers want to insert pre-roll or 30-second ads or whatever whatever their way is. So that's part of the challenge, right? If you're a content creator, do you tell the story the way we're all advocating? Like, let's give it the way the consumers want it. Let's meet their needs as they wish. But we also have this arguably equally important customer of the advertiser.
Somebody has to pay the
Yeah, and
Right.
and if their agency, it's a big machine. So if they're only going to kick out pre-roll ads or 30-second ads or whatever, you better make a format that fits those things. And I'm working with a partner right now on a boxing project, and there's some pressure to make it something that will fit into a 30-minute slot so that we can sell it to the right partners. Truthfully, I think it should be an 8-minute show. But what ad format works really well with the 8-minute show? It's too long for Facebook probably, and whatever, and it's too short for linear. So, but the storyteller that says that's really the right amount of time for that chapter. So that's exciting. So these recommendation engines, when they take into account the quality and the characteristics of the content, I look forward to a day someday in the future when I go to watch some program, I can see the 4-minute version of ESPN's PTI, pardon the interruption, or I can watch the 30-minute one, or if I'm really into it, I can watch a 5-hour version of it, and somehow it knows based on my other activity. That's like a holy grail for me. And advertisers will somehow have a magical jacket full of advertising options that fit into each viewing experience.
But you bring up a really interesting point, which is how do you monetize it, right?
Yeah.
So how does Beyonce and T-Swizzle monetize Instagram a lot differently than any of the content we're talking about in a premium video? Somebody pays to watch it, or somebody pays to put advertising on it, and that's a very, very different. So that those studies are interesting, but it's not. Is it apples to apples?
Well, I think it's definitely not apples to apples, but then it's up to the content owner's business model, right? So Stars, what do you really want is someone to subscribe to Stars, right? So
That's right. Our business is much, we don't have this complication.
Exactly,
We sell
but in
subscriptions
that
for it.
case, offering snackable content or Instagram or other avenues is really just all geared toward I'm engaging more with the show, and therefore I want to continue my subscription or start a subscription. In the NFL model, the revenue opportunities, of course, are a lot different. There's watch the game is where bulk of it comes from, but if you're in a team situation, there's ticket sales, there's merchandise sales, there's events, there's sponsorship. So again, it's all geared toward getting a fan to engage with your brand at some different level. If you're Fox or ABC, of course you need someone to watch the primary linear broadcast so you can sell advertising. So again, your snackable other content platforms and options will be geared toward getting people to watch that primetime broadcast. So I think that there's different nuances to how you would deliver content and for what purpose across platforms, but that's really at the discretion of the ultimate end business model of the content owner.
One of the things in terms of advertising that we didn't really talk about is interactive TV, which hasn't been really successful other than maybe a little bit in advertising. I guess maybe talk about that. Why has it not been so successful, and do you see that as something in the future?
We've played with interactive advertising for years and years. The example I always use is that when I first started working on it, we were talking about letting the viewer buy Jennifer Aniston's sweater from Friends. So that tells you how long we've been working on it.
I was in that meeting.
Yeah. And the technology exists to do it now, but there really isn't a business model for it. There really isn't, programmers are still leery of taking somebody out of the program stream, of watching the show that they're watching. Advertisers aren't quite convinced that that's really the best way to go. So I don't think that interactive at that level, the broadcast TV level, works. I mean, when you get to the Facebook advertising and click and direct clicks, that's a whole different story, and I think that's where that's going. I don't know that we'll ever really see a whole lot of fully interactive broadcast television advertising. It just doesn't fit the medium.
I think you had a technology barrier originally for the interactive. How do you buy Jennifer Aniston's sweater in a QAM-based delivery network? That's another technical option. But even then, from a user standpoint, do people watching TV want to have tasks, or they just want to lie on the couch and watch TV? And when you're on a phone and you're within Facebook or something else, then I'm used to clicking. But on a TV and a lieback experience, I'm not looking for that. And that, I think, has been a big struggle. It's another one of the things where the people in technology really want that to happen, and the people in advertising really want it, but it didn't prove that anyone else really wanted to experience it.
I mean, I don't have a TV example, but will be interesting. Maybe a 2017 example of that program, Scandal. Maybe they want to sell the Kerry Washington sweater, and maybe there's one camp that says, we're not going to do that because we don't want to take people away from the linear broadcast. Another camp might say, we know everyone's going to go to their devices during the break anyway. Let's have them go to our device so they don't go to somewhere else or change the channel completely. You know, in the gaming world, I worked with a major gaming publisher in my last job at running an ad agency, and during the load time on the console game, they would lose players. So they said, shit, let's have a second screen experience that provides some entertaining content during the load process. Because we know they're going to bring their phone out anyway. Let's have them tied together, push them to that, and keep them thinking about this game the entire time, even during the downtimes. So it
says a lot about gamers. Like the attention span is really hard. You gotta get them with your content that fast, or like, wow, a 10-second load is too much.
But on the
and
other
the gamers
side,
of yesterday are the TV watchers of today. So
But the other side, they're clicking a button 10 times a second. So getting them to interact with something is a whole different world than getting somebody to interact who's picked up the remote, pressed a channel, and put the remote down.
It's funny.
Whole different world.
Funny you say that. When you said I want to be 3 buttons away to watching a game, and you're thinking, well, shouldn't I be one? Your boss is saying it was 1 click, and everybody else is saying, well, it could be 12. It doesn't matter. I can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
One
One voice
Well,
command.
yes.
From my phone in the car on the way home.
Yeah.
Yeah, put the TV on by
Yeah.
the time I get in the living room is the real goal.
So is content still king then? We've talked a lot about content, and it seems like that still is an important factor,
That's the most important
Yeah,
factor.
certainly, absolutely.
regardless of the platform.
Yeah.
And being right for a given platform.
The best in the video space, if you don't have the video, there's no point in building the app.
Right. And so with that, and with the shorter attention span of the younger generations, and you talk about the content monetization, what is the reality check on the economics? Where they're skipping past commercials and interactive advertising is not, working through skinny bundles. So they don't want to pay for everything that they're not, in their view, watching. What's the answer?
I don't know that that's the right way to look at it, because I don't think that the younger generation is only watching clips. They definitely have a mode where they watch a lot of clips, and that's a new addition, but I don't think it completely replaces everything. My 14-year-old, to bring it back around to the same classic piece of content, Friends, my 14-year-old has found Friends and watched every single episode of Friends online. That's still, you can argue whether that's good content or not, but it's good content. But it's good content, and so she
Highly
watched every
profitable
single
content.
episode of it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean she doesn't watch short clips, but it means that extended view is still there for them.
I think for Verizon and Cisco, and working with a lot of different types of customers who monetize a lot of different ways, advertising is still a massive business for anyone who's, like, if you're an MVPD or if you're a broadcast station, any of those, and out to the apps. Apps might be more in a per monthly subscriber model, but advertising as well, like Roku with advertising and their whole advertising network. That gets figured out, but it's shifting and it's hard.
Yeah, advertising is still huge, even in app environment. We do a lot of live streaming of affiliate networks, of broadcasters, of cable networks, as well as VOD, and just in 4 years since we started really with ABC owned and operated affiliates, we've gone from a situation of, hey, this is kind of cool, to, all right, we really need some triple backup robust infrastructure, because now this is a real business, and if our stream is down, we're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. So, and all of that is ad-based, and then, of course, subscription is a whole different story, and like I said earlier, there's plenty of different ways to monetize via transaction or merchandise or what have you, but there's no question that advertising will remain a huge monetization channel for a long time to come. I think it's all, what we're all, or content owners anyway, commercial content owners, not subscription content owners, are dealing with. It just the dollars versus dimes kind of problem today.
One of the things we talked quite a bit about before was data and data analytics around customer demands. How successful is the industry in this, and where do you think we're moving toward?
So we as a platform are not collecting any data or analytics of our customers necessarily. We facilitate that as an operator, though, for Verizon owned and operated properties, of course we do that. I think we're in a situation where the collected data is far surpassed what anyone's doing with it, basically. And it's, the most sophisticated targeting is being done today for advertising. And okay, great, that's how we make money, but it's not very exciting as a consumer. So I think where we sit today as a video distribution platform is we need to start using all of that data, whether it's our data, and of course from Verizon's standpoint, we have a ton to offer, but or it's a content owner or platform provider's data. We need to start using that for content discovery and delivery rather than just ads. So we've done some very rudimentary stuff, like Saturday Night Live application is a good example where when you first log in, they ask you a lot of questions about what do you like? You like the Weekend Update, you like the commercials, you like John Belushi, and then next time you come in, just the linear stream starts of everything mixed together that you like. And that's led to increased engagement of just turn it on and it plays, but you're doing at least some level of personalization. I think sports is an area ripe for this. There's tons of metadata about who's on the field at any given time, what's happening in any given play, all can be exploited to create your own personal red zone channel. Or I think what we'll see from kind of the regional sports networks is just complete disintegration, maybe not on TV, but at least online, of a traditional live linear stream. If you're Fox Sports Southwest, you've got potentially 35, 60 different streams that could be delivered at any given time based on your zip code and which team area you're in, but why does that have to be a linear stream at all? It could be, here's the 120 events going on right now, choose one, or here's your selection of the 5 we think you would be interested in.
But the combination of data and advertising actually gives us the opportunity to answer some of the questions we asked earlier, right. Which is, one, how do we not keep increasing the price to the customer? Because if we can target advertising appropriately, which we're starting to be able to do, then we can charge the advertiser a higher CPM because we're giving them the right consumers, and in that case charge the consumer less. We can also probably cut down on some of the commercial time because we don't have to flood the TV program with 6 or 8 or 10 commercials, only one of which applies to me. Yeah. They can just send the one that applies to me and make sure that I see the right commercial. So I think that to me, the biggest opportunity in data, I mean, recommendation is definitely there, but the opportunity on the business side of the business is to make the television advertising more effective with less of it, with targeted advertising that hits the right person with the right ad.
Our customers are universally interested in data. On the old, for the traditional broadcasters, it's hard to get still in the nature of the networks that are built. But there's so much data, and it's only as valuable as what you can parse intelligently, and that aspect of it is not quite there. Gathering is happening like crazy. Utilizing and understanding what it really means and how it'll help you, that doesn't seem to be quite there yet.
I mean, just not to be bleak, but I'm hopeful that everyone here figures this out, because my worry is that the Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon quadrant swallows up all the ad dollars and makes it difficult to produce content. I mean, I come from the struggling industry of print that's trying to figure out video now, and we're doing some interesting things. 800% growth in video year over year, all those great things. Like, the business as an entirety is decimated particularly by Google and Facebook. They're coming at you, cable. They're not not even, with the exception of Amazon, they're not even really creating good content yet. So just wait till they do. So I'm hopeful that all of us together can band together and figure it out.
You're right. It's scary. Like for Amazon, it's a rounding error designed to sell more Band-Aids. It's not even their core business. And
Well,
so
we have a formula that we've used on the Warner Music side that actually goes right up against YouTube and has done phenomenally well, because the value proposition to the third-party publisher that's taking the content from us is you can get it and get a revenue stream, which today YouTube doesn't offer in terms of a streaming or a pre-roll. But more importantly is we have all the exclusive rights to the content we're producing out of that Warner library, which isn't available on YouTube. So when we go talk about the value proposition, in every instance, the third-party publisher that has, in many cases, hundreds of millions of views a month, they're getting a revenue stream, and they're getting proprietary content that is not available on any other platform. So it has been incredibly effective to go right up against the vulnerabilities of YouTube. And I think the same could be said about Facebook as well. In other words, as a content owner, where do you have a USP that can go up against this behemoth and win? And I think we can demonstrate and have demonstrated specifically with Warner Music that we can win at their expense. Until they kill us.
No, I mean, it's because so we have to have our data
Until
game
they buy
high enough
Warner.
to compete.
Right.
But the content is how you win. At the end of the day,
Right.
and everyone here is either creating killer content or preparing bundles of killer content for people to digest. And so kudos to you.
I think it's all about the intellectual property. It will always be that if you can figure out a way to leverage it, take underutilized IPs and make them work, and get an expanded distribution model and tie it with advertising or not, direct sales as well, then you can win the battle. I mean, at least you can compete.
Yeah, well said.
I wanted to take some questions from the audience. I see a couple of hands that were raised. If you wanted to go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, I did have a question to you. I mean, to piggyback on the comments you made about Amazon and about Facebook. Okay, so we do a lot of research in digital media. I work for Research Institute in DC. And our research indicates that especially with the millennial generation, Instagram, Facebook, and other social media is now acting as recommendation engines for what is being watched. So there it goes. So you are lamenting the lack of good search and discovery. Well, at least for a significant generation, that is how they search and discover.
I think that's true. I think that means that marketing has to get better to be able to make sure that things are marketed through the channels that people are seeing. I think the difference is that those of us in the distribution world, we used to be the only place that they could get a recommendation. Maybe that and the paper TV guide magazine was about the only place you could get a recommendation. Now they can get all these friend recommendations, like recommendations from social media. So it does change it a little bit, but I think the goal is to make sure that what's getting recommended is not some cat video produced by someone in the basement. It's premium content that we all want to make sure viewers get to see.
Yeah, we leverage Facebook and Twitter all the time. It's a big part of our marketing strategy to drive star subscriptions and exposure for the star shows. It's a tool. They're marketing partners for us.
Yeah, I used to actually work on stars when I was at Edelman. And so you guys do awesome stuff on
He
social
did
media.
it.
So you can definitely, that's great. But so there's two. There's a short term of, yes, let's use all available channels to market and bring people to our hubs where we have our great content, to our services or whatever they may be. At the same time, we need to become hubs that people go to for discovery as well, I think. Because, again, I'm not to be the paranoid anti-Facebook person or something, but what's to stop Facebook from creating 100 premium shows in 2018 and exclusively promoting those and then cutting off all that funnel of all that discovery, right? It's pretty scary to me. So at the end of the day, let's create awesome things, have our own opt-in relationships with consumers so that they continue to come direct to stars for the great stuff that they create, the great entertaining content.
I think what Facebook is doing exactly that,
Yeah.
and what they're finding is that creating content isn't that easy.
Yeah, that's
So for
that's
now,
right.
let's kill 'em while we
And
can.
YouTube
so,
is-
so I think it was Mitch who said, look, I think you said it about Friends, so I'll grain of salt it for a second, but good content's good content, and creating content is not an easy thing to do, and so it's not enough to just create it, but you have to expose it and drive people to it. So certainly Edelman and Facebook and Twitter and leveraging influencers and talent to expose that and drive them back to the premium service is key for us. I think somebody mentioned earlier Spotify. All right, so one thing that's interesting about us, we did an integration with Spotify. So initially you think video, music, different platforms, but frankly entertainment's entertainment. And so within the Stars app, you can log into your Spotify account, listen to soundtracks against our originals. In the case of a show like Power, you can listen to the Power soundtrack, you can listen to 50 Cent albums. We can then work with Spotify to identify it, and going back to the data comment.
Sharing data, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we can see what else we can learn about you, and I can create a new video recommended carousel, or we call them swim lanes, based on your Spotify habits. So it's just another way to expose, be more targeted, more personalized, and get you to content deeper in our catalog and keep you engaged. So I don't necessarily think of all these folks as enemies. Frankly, these are
Co-opetition.
that's
Frenemies.
right. Yeah, well said. Yeah.
I think also, maybe I'm a little rosy, but I think you underestimate the consumer as well in that kind of doomsday scenario, right? If Facebook were to create thousands of their own videos and cut everyone off, I think consumers would rebel. I mean, looking at, it's not my part of the business, but as Verizon, as a ISP and a cable provider, there's always a lot of concern in the net neutrality kind of areas of what if Verizon just degraded Netflix so you would have to watch VOD? Well, my view is if we did that, then we would lose thousands and hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So if Facebook offers a fantastic solution, then people are going to go there, and advertisers are going to go there. If non-Facebook can offer a better solution, then that's where consumers are going to go.
Looking at OTT, particularly advertising-based streaming today, at the state of the industry, where we stand in 2017, one of the great frustrations I have is that you have this inventory, but you have relatively very few advertisements. So you see the same thing over and over and over again, which seems to me that there's this great opportunity out there for somebody to sell this inventory. What's going on? Why is this inventory not being filled? Why am I forced to watch the same car commercial like 9 times?
Well, Jason, I'll answer first, and that is that advertising is a scale business, and until there's scale of viewers, there's not a whole lot of people who want to buy in. Even if it's a good deal, it's just not worth their time and effort. So as streaming has been getting started, you definitely, if you logged into some ad-supported services, especially live sports, you ended up seeing the same ad in every single break in the game over and over and over again. And we all know how ridiculously annoying that is. It's probably not even beneficial to the advertiser at that point. But it is maturing. What's going on now is that on Sling TV, we have the opportunity to run dynamic ad insertion across a number of channels. And to the viewer, it just looks like regular television. They still have the same commercial break because it's the same feed that comes in over satellite or over cable. But in this case, that ad is being delivered to that consumer. It's a targeted ad that's delivered to that consumer at that time and really has the ability to rate a higher CPM. So I think that business is growing. The trouble is, though, in the early stages, you don't have that scale. And what happens is there's one company who says, sure, throw my ad in that broadcast, and their ad runs over and over and over again. But I think in a lot of spaces, we're getting past that. We're getting to where scale exists, which means the advertisers and their agencies are interested.
Yeah, I know you'll love this answer, which is it depends. But like I said, I mean, we deliver probably over 200 local affiliate channels, and it's all over the map. Sinclair does a fantastic job of monetizing almost 100% of all of their local affiliate network content, and they have an incredibly complex waterfall of ad networks and programmatic and direct sold inventory. And then on the other side of that, there's kind of like Fox primetime network content where they only want to sell, they only want their direct sales team to sell Empire. Right? If you want to buy ads on Empire, you have to come to Fox. And they would rather sell 3 ads and then run a couple promos than have a programmatic fill of Bob's local Chevrolet pop up in the first break of Empire. So I think there's a lot of it depends on brand equity, business model, ability to sell. On the other side of that too, just so there's local affiliates that they don't have the capability to sell digital inventory, and they're just not savvy enough. So I think, like Mitch said, it depends on who and where, but it's definitely getting much better than it has been in the last 2 years.
I have 2 questions. One of them is related to global audience. So what are the barriers that you see to reach a global audience for your content or distribution channel at the moment? Is it language? Is there a market that you're trying to play? Or
Is that for start? Is that to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
content providers
I
probably
would,
pursue.
yeah, sure. So the services I work on in the traditional, as we think about it, in this room, Star Service is available in the U.S., although we do take our shows and we sell them internationally, and that's just done from outside of, it's a different group.
To Odd platform, I was more interested in. Do you do that through the Odd platform or through the traditional distribution broadcast?
I think both. Just want to be honest, not my area of expertise. We do have as far as OTT goes, we do have Stars Play Arabia, which we have in the Middle East, North Africa area, and is an OTT provider that targets that region, and they carry some Star shows as well as content from across major studios and other providers, and so that's.
More mobile based, or is it more web based?
Well, that's part of the issue is clearance and rights internationally. So it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about broadcast, that's going to, every region will be different, every country could be different, or like in the U.S., recording rights for DVR, there's all sorts of different issues. On OTT, then those are different rights, and who gets to control those. From a technology standpoint, like Cisco for OTT, we can push anywhere in the world. And broadcast as well, we do satellite all over the world. So it's really comes down to content ownership, I think, more than anything for an international discussion.
Yeah, and I think for us, those rights vary by show.
But you have seen examples. So we are selling our content in Africa through MTN, which is a large mobile carrier, and they price it via subscription. So if you price on the top tier, you get access to our content. In that particular market, it's all health and wellness that we're providing them. But then you look at somebody like Netflix in India, and they've done spectacularly well on a subscription model. I think the last numbers I saw, they're up to 200,000 subscribers, which nobody thought initially that they would be that effective in India, because India and their own Bollywood and so forth. But not only have they been able to locally apply content to the market, but they're also bringing in, and they've cleared a lot of the rights around the world. So in this particular area, they've actually exceeded their projections.
Netflix owns its content internationally, so that's what helps.
The second question is, how do you see the aggregation and curation common platform? Because the fact is that we all go to YouTube, we go to Netflix, we go to Amazon Prime for the content. Content talks, right? So how do you see is there a need for aggregation and curation across all these platforms?
I think there is. I think it comes to the UI, like I said earlier, and both on Dish and on our set-top box, the Air TV player, we've basically taken Netflix and put it right into the UI. So because that's what customers want. If they're going to spend a portion of their time watching that content, and we know that now, we're going to make it available to them because that's just going to make their life easier. And frankly, for our benefit, it's going to make them more locked into our product. They're going to like our product because it's got those things that they want integrated. So our goal is to integrate as much as we can. And in some cases, we might make a profit off of integrating it. In some cases, we don't. We just do it because we know that's what the consumer wants. And I think if we create artificial barriers to the consumer, saying that they have to, Stars is a great example. They can use the Stars app, but they don't have to use the Stars app. They can watch the Stars content within our environment as well. And for the customer who just is hooked on Outlander, I want them to watch it on my platform. I want to make it available. Same goes for Netflix, same goes for other providers. Dish did the same thing with YouTube. YouTube is available on the Dish Hopper because customers were going to watch it anyway. So we might as well make it available.
Yeah, well said. For us, it's a very easy proposition. We want to be where the consumer is, and so if you want to watch on Sling TV, great, we're there. You want to watch on Dish, great, we're there. You want to watch on Amazon channels, great, we're there. You want to watch directly from Stars because you're a giant Outlander fan or a giant Power fan, we're there too, right? A lot of it has to do with price point. So in the case of the traditional MVPDs and a premium service like Stars, it is very expensive before you can even get to a tier to get Stars. And so great news for us seems to be a real appetite to be able to get premium content like Stars on an affordable basis at an $8.99 price point.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there. As the content needs to be where the consumer is, right? So yes, there's definitely need for aggregation, but what is that? And I think it's really contextual, both for content and for state of mind, like I was saying earlier. So if you're looking for your nightly sports highlights, you're probably not going to go to Amazon Prime to look for that, right? It's going to be Facebook or Google or ESPN or what have you. So the ability to, as a content owner, to syndicate your content to where it needs to be for what it is, I think is really the aggregation story, rather than Facebook wins or Google wins or Sling wins. That's not going to happen. It's going to be what users use in what mindset for what content, and just make sure your content's there.
Go ahead.
Hi, this question is probably more for Robert and for Scott, because you guys are content creators and you got to get this thing out far and wide. Technology, though, consumer problems. Okay, you're relying on a lot of third parties to make sure your stuff works. You're the brand that's out there shining, right? So I'm a consumer and something doesn't work, I'm cussing Stars under my breath and not the broadband provider, for example. How do you guys manage that? That's my first part of the question. The second one is, there's a myriad of platforms you have to deal with. How do you guys manage it? You do all that in-house? Do you have teams of engineers working on that? You outsource all that stuff? What do you guys do? I mean, what Mitch is doing, I got that. You guys control everything end to end, but you don't. So how, answer those questions.
Sure. Well, first, we distribute to a lot of platforms. So we distribute to Amazon, we distribute to AOL, et cetera, and then we distribute with our own video technology. Those are usually secondary and tertiary publishers that don't have a lot of sophistication with regard to video technology. In that instance, it's our dime, it's our technology, we're handling the analytics, we're handling what we call the audience network, et cetera, and we're monetizing it on their behalf. So it's kind of a 100% solution. So yes, we have a team that's working against it, and we're aggregating in numbers. So right now we have 1,000 publishers that will be on our platform by the end of the year, averaging 1 billion video views a month, and we monetize it through brands and sponsors and programmatic. When it comes to the larger platforms, like the AOLs of the world or the MTNs of the world, we're providing the content, they're monetizing it, they're the ones that are getting the screaming clients that say, hey, we're not getting it, et cetera. All we get is a check at the end of the month based on how many views our content got and how many advertisers monetize that content. So that's kind of our world or our wheelhouse.
Okay, a little bit different for Stars.
Yeah, a little bit different. But remember, I mean, traditionally, or at least still today, Stars rides on with distributors across their networks, right? And this is true in the traditional MVPD space, and the folks like Dish, DirecTV, Comcast, right? Like this has always been the case. It's not a new thing for us.
No, it's the OTT part that I
Oh.
think that's a little messy.
Okay. Actually, on the distributor side, I would throw folks like Sling and Amazon into that bucket as well, where we're delivering our content to them. It's surfaced up within their platform. Really, the burden's on them, although people still might be cursing stars if their platforms go down. Not a lot we can do with that except for, have...
Do you get consumer calls?
Of course, always have. Yeah. As it relates, I think maybe the source of your question, as it relates to the STARS platform, we have a team of engineers who have built out those applications, and certainly leveraging vendors where it makes sense. But for the most part, we have a team of very talented engineers that are at STARS and have built out across all the devices we support.
Do you take customer complaints?
We do.
You don't.
I don't. No, sir. I come to these panels, but there are people who do, yes. Yeah.
Earlier on the panel, there seemed to be some skepticism around for linear, the linear OTT feeds, the UX around essentially not having a always on Hulu, because there seemed to be universal skepticism on the panel on Hulu's UX, maybe not stars. But
I don't know. Remains to be seen. It's definitely creative.
right, right. So the question is, could you guys kind of, is there any sort of beyond just what you all feel? Do you have any data to support that, or just build on that point? I'm not 100% convinced as to what you guys are saying. In disclosure, my company was responsible for building that UX. But there just seemed.
I would say it may work great. It's early. It's hard to tell. I think generally with new technologies or new way of using things, it happens a lot slower than you think. So it's iterations of change over how you expect a guide, or iterations of change of how that UX and experience happens. And you see that over and over and over. So that is such a big change for how people will watch a linear television feed that it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
I think viewers have different modes, and there absolutely are modes that really are deserving and needing of a new UI, of a new way to get to content and have it presented in a different upfront format.
Maybe it's a
different
choice
search
of which
format.
one they want.
But I've been in cable and satellite a long time, and every time we've tried to have a better UI, the first question we get is, where's the grid guide? We have to provide that as an option. I'm not saying it's necessarily the first option. We could get something better, but I guarantee you there's still going to be customers out there that go, I just want to be able to look at 8 o'clock and see what's on 6 or 8 or 10 channels at a time at 8 o'clock. That's just a mode consumers like. It doesn't mean it's the only mode, but I think we're a long way away from being able to present a full TV service. Now, Netflix is a little bit different. Netflix is a subset of content. But a full TV service without something like a grid guide, I think we're a ways away from that.
Well, do you think that we just have to train the user?
I think it's...
In the same sense that Apple trained us not to flip our phones open, and they trained us to not have a touch it. Don't you think some of it is just going to be training?
Apple gave you an entirely different experience that didn't exist before. People watching TV have an expectation and have been taught how to do it. So if you want to educate them of an entirely new way to do it, that's not impossible, but it's extremely difficult.
I think to Mitch's point, it's mode of the consumer too, right? So we do have some data across all the video that we deliver that just starting a linear stream, like I was saying earlier, ideally curated as much as possible, does lead to increased engagement times. And that's not the same thing as an EPG, and is that needed? I don't think I was the skeptical one. I'm really interested to see how well it works for Hulu. But I do think there should be within that some level of just turn it on and it plays. And ideally that's personalized as much as possible, because I probably shouldn't say company names because we don't have rights for that. But there are a number of data points that show that just starting a linear stream when you open your app or when you turn on your TV leads to increased engagement time. And so having that ability somewhere, I think, is important.
Don't disagree. That's
Yeah,
why Facebook,
yeah,
newsfeed is so popular.
exactly. Now, does it need an EPG? I don't know. But to Midge's point, if you turn on your cable network, you're expecting an EPG, and if it's not there, you're going to be thrown.
I think that's right. So there's a big difference between somebody who has a traditional set-top, and that's what they're accustomed to, and a Hulu user. And look, I think the Hulu, what I've seen of it, looks fantastic. Content discovery, or getting deeper into the library, I would say is probably the biggest challenge. But it looks from what I've seen, it looks beautiful, and kudos. I think it's great work. From our perspective, we tried to take a very much of a consumer-first position, and I think we broke from a lot of the traditional ways content gets served up and content gets curated, at least in the premium space. And so, if you look on iTunes right now, Starz is the number 4 top grossing entertainment app and has a 4.5 star rating. And we pay a lot of attention to those things because I think consumer ratings, especially in this space, mean a lot. And I look at my competition, and they have a 2.5 star rating, right? So we take a little bit of pride in that. But for us, anyway, the real balance, and totally different than Hulu, but the real balance here is promotion of a show versus exposing the right content depth to people, because we have a lot of people who come for originals, and which is fantastic. We want them to be engaged in that, but as soon as they're engaged, we should be thinking about what we're going to engage them with next, so we extend their subscriber life.
But again, it goes to mode of the consumer, right? I mean, I got home Monday night, and my wife told me about the Ariana Grande concert. Well, I only wanted live CNN and live MSNBC. I didn't want anything else. I didn't want any newsfeed. I didn't want clips. I didn't want highlights. I wanted to see the live feed from those 2 channels, period. So the UI has to be able to give me that very, very quickly and very, very easily as a mode, not the only mode, but as a mode of operation.
It's interesting, though, because same exact event, and I went to check, Flipboard and news feeds because I just assumed CNN was going to be screaming about Trump or something. I didn't want to see it, right? So it just kind of goes to personal dislike or dislike and the mode you're in.
Yeah, but Xavier, I also think it's an age issue and a demographic issue. I have young kids at home like Shannon. My kids don't have any idea what a grid looks like. They just want to search. They've been trained into the YouTube world, and frankly, they think everything that's being served up, they kind of created in their mind anyway. So as we move this age barrier around, I think you'll see that change as well.
Bob, you're right. And to Mitch's point, things take a second, like to train, right? For the systems to train. So a year from now, hopefully 3 to 6 months from now, it's going to recognize when Mitch comes home, he's completely different than Bob, and he wants to see this live, and he wants to see this live. If he comes home after 10 o'clock, he's probably by himself, and it just takes some time, right? For this to happen. It's not going to be overnight.
We're getting close to the end of time, so I'll take one more question.
I'm just curious as to why there isn't an intermediate step to the grid, which is just a personalized, it may just be my wonderful cable provider, and I can't get Verizon to come down the street with Fios. It's that there's channels there, I've got 365 channels, which I maybe watch half a dozen or a dozen, but at least it could take out from the grid stuff I'll never watch. I could put it back if I wanted, but you could eliminate that down, or just be able to say news, right, and the grid comes up with CNN.
Virtually every provider with an EPG has given consumers the opportunity to favorite or customize their guide for probably a decade, and almost nobody does it. No matter how we offer it, no matter how we promote it to people, they just don't do
Which
it.
I think, I have not seen Cox promote that, not to name names, but I think that they don't, I think there's a reason they don't want to.
Well, they do want to make sure you see the value in their $75 a month package. Sure, there is a value to making sure you know you have 100 channels, even if you only watch 12.
Yeah, because you don't want a cheap price.
Well, thank you very much. I wanted to thank our panelists. Is there any parting thoughts that you have, or before we? It was a good discussion. If there's anything else that you want to come up and ask, then feel welcome to. But we're at the end of the time, so thank you very much.